Hello everyone, and welcome to the Future of Dogs podcast, a place for the whole dog world to come together and ask the big why and what if questions that will shape the dogs of the future. Join me, Hannah Malloy, as we chat to some of the world's most groundbreaking professionals intent on enriching and evolving the future of dogs. This podcast is in association with Amplified Behaviour, my online video learning library for dog owners and dog geeks. Big thanks to my dog's favourite food and our Season 1 sponsor, Nature's Menu. With over 40 years in the pet food business, Nature's Menu is Europe's leading expert in raw and natural pet food. So let's jump into the conversation. Welcome to another episode of The Future of Dogs. And this episode is titled The Future of Dogs and Children. And we have a very special guest in the form of Debby Lucken. Debby is a fully qualified dog trainer with the Institute of Modern Dog Trainers and a dog behaviourist with the International School of Canine Psychology. She's a member of the Pet Professional Network, the ICANN International Companion Animal Network, Into Dogs, the Pet Professional Guild, the Society for Companion Animal Studies, the Dog Training College, and the Dog Welfare Alliance. Debby has over 8 years experience working with dogs, and she particularly enjoys assisting kids to train and raise their dogs to be great family companions. Some of her clients have also gone and become great therapy dogs in schools and in nursing homes. Debby is the founder of Kids Around Dogs, or KAD, which is an association of professionals who specialise in working with families and schools to help children and dogs live in harmony together. Moreover, Debby has designed a successful protocol to overcome the fear of dogs in kids, which all of the KAD-approved professionals are qualified to use. Debby's work with KAD has been awarded the SBS Theo Paphitis Award in May 2022. Debby is based in Poole, in Dorset, with her husband Gary, their daughter Molly, their 2 doggies, Wilco the pug and Winnie the golden retriever, and Mario the cat, great cat name, Debby. Dorset is where Debby runs her dog training and behaviour business under the name of Poco Dogs. She delivers lessons and webinars globally. She's also bilingual, speaking English and Italian, which allows her to help more professionals and dog handlers around the world. Kids Around Dogs you can follow on Facebook and on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, which I'm always super impressed by, and Twitter. Debby, welcome to the show.
Hello, Anna. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, absolute pleasure. So Debby, you and I have hung out a couple of times before, haven't we? This is not the first time that we've met. And you and I met, I think the first time we started chatting was actually that our heart for having children hang out with dogs is very similar. And I actually met a lady who was a surgeon for children who'd been bitten by dogs in Birmingham, Andrea Jester, a wonderful woman, and she thrust some educational leaflets at me that she was expected to give to children and parents and said, Hannah, I don't want to give these out anymore because they don't work, you know. And this was her heart, that actually this kind of education just doesn't work. You know, giving a parent a pamphlet to help their child understand dog behaviour, it's not working. Children are still getting bitten by dogs. And so she actually approached me and said, can you help me to create a programme to educate children about dogs? And I thought about it and I was like, well, yes, I can. And I would love to do that. Something along the lines of kids making friends with dogs and getting rid of some of the language around sort of be scared of dogs, be dog aware. And then I came across your amazing work with Kids Around Dogs. And I was like, she's doing it and she's smashing it.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more, Debby, about Kids Around Dogs and where did it come from? Like, what's your backstory that led you to the point of setting up this amazing organisation?
So as you know, I am a mum and you met my daughter Molly as well. So when Molly was quite little, she was preschool, I started working with dogs. And I qualified as a trainer and obviously, you know, fascinated and always been obsessed with dogs. And as Molly was growing up and she started having her own friends, you know, friends whose mum were not people I already knew. So they weren't people I'd introduced to her life, but she met herself through school and kindergarten and so on. So she started having play dates and those kids were coming to our house. and they were either terrified of dogs and would climb on their parents or climb on our stairs, screaming, running, the usual things that you would imagine a child to do. Even though my dogs were like looking at them like, what are you doing? Baffled by it all. Or they were so loving of dogs, but unfortunately a bit too over-friendly with our dogs, such as wanting to hug them all the time, staring at them, wanting to kiss them, like, around the face and all that. So all things that I completely understand, we all can relate to, because dogs are super cute, super soft, and you just want to cuddle them all the time. But they didn't know that dogs don't want to be cuddled all the time. They don't want always to be hugged. They don't want to, so many things to happen to them all the time. And I realized how little there was out there on this topic, on this issue, if you like, because we know the dogs bite, and they have bitten before. And especially when it comes to children, being the right height and having a softer skin than adults, unfortunately, the damage can be higher sometimes. So we wanted to avoid it all that. And to be fair, I don't actually like to talk about it. I don't like to, when I do talk to kids or into schools, I don't actually say, oh, dogs are going to bite, things like this, because I feel it's scaring them, first of all, and could be damaging more than helpful. So while obviously I know that those things exist, I'm not, I don't live in Disneyland all the time. Sometimes I do. So I know those things exist, and of course I'm always going to be careful. I'm always supervising and everything. But at the same time, I rather give the kids something to do.
Sure.
That is positive, that the dog would appreciate, that the kids would appreciate, and that then can combine the two species in a loving and positive way, so that they really can live well together and be happy together and safe too. So that was my idea back then. I couldn't find anything like this, at least not in the UK. In the US, there is Family Paws and the Family Dog as well, and parenting Pooch parenting, sorry. And they are amazing. And I love all those women for doing what they're doing. Sadly, though, they were all in America. And although, I love a travel, I'm going to be all traveling, I felt we needed something here. We needed something a bit closer to home, with different culture as well, and different, even our vocabulary is different, isn't it? Sure. So I wanted something closer to home, and that's how KAD then was born, really, after years of thinking about it. I don't wake up one day going, that's what I'm going to do. And I've written the courses. I've created a protocol to overcome the fear of dogs in kids. I've written the courses on family life with dogs. And a great colleague, Dr. Helen Lewis, then wrote the course on dogs in schools, which is which is a whole other topic, where we see a lot of school dog nowadays going into school and helping children to just have a better day at school, and hopefully a better life as well. But again, a lack of proper material, proper education. They won't see any harsh method, or wouldn't see the dogs being pushed to its limit. So I wanted something positive for both the dogs and the kids, so that the experience could be effectively a good one for everybody. And so KAD, I hope, represents all of this. The positivity of all the KAD-approved professionals out there, who are all qualified. They're all amazing people, really amazing people. And so wherever in the UK, we also have some members in Canada, the US, Australia, Sweden, Spain, the Netherlands, and recently as well, the Dominican Republic. So it's, it's really growing. I'm so
amazing.
happy. Yeah, so
And it's
happy.
grown super quickly, hasn't it, actually, Debbie? I think
It
you and
has,
I,
yeah.
we started talking maybe midway through, about 9 months ago, I think, properly.
Yes. We were chatting on digitally first, and then you came here to visit as well.
I did. We
Yeah,
tried. We trialed podcast number 1, and
yeah.
you know,
That's
I
true.
learned the reasons why we need lots of professionals to help us with our setup, so that it sounds really good. But it was so great to catch up with you, and as I say, even then, you know, you had lots of growth, but it feels like even since then you've grown
Yeah,
even more. Like people
it
are
has.
really
Yeah.
jumping on this program. What do you think it is that makes the difference between what the kinds of education that existed before and you're offering with KADs? Like, what are the differences, would you say, for those that are thinking, actually, that is something I'd probably like to get involved in as a dog trainer?
Again, I love all the companies, the schools that are already out there, and I'm friends with all of them, you know, super happy that they exist. Maybe the difference could be, again, the fact that we are in the UK, we're in Europe, so the cultural thing is, it could be a difference. It could be something that makes a point. The other thing, perhaps as well, that we, whilst maybe other association focus more on the baby, or pregnancy and newborn babies, we kind of cover all stages of life. So from pregnancy or adoption into teenagehood. So every part of development, because children change. And that also means that, a family with a teenager or a preteen, as I am experiencing right now, is very different than a life with a toddler, for example. Yeah. So you need to be prepared for the different aspects of that. Not only the children are different, the dog will have to expect different things, but also the part of the parents is I know when I had Molly, my emotions were all over the place, but I was younger. Things were different. There were different needs. Now I have a preteen who is the sweetest thing one moment and not quite that sweet. Quite that sweet the next. So it's very different.
Yes.
So that too is a component.
And dogs pick up on that as well, don't they?
Absolutely.
They can smell feelings.
Yeah.
So actually having owners, I mean, I know we both train dogs, so teaching humans that actually working on how they're feeling can affect the dog is huge. I can't even imagine how you would begin to sort of talk to the teenager about how their feelings might be affecting the dog, or vice versa. Or maybe what do we do? Do we just manage the dog more so than trying to manage the explosive teenager? Like, what would the tips would you give for parents with teenagers with dogs? Maybe they've got a new rescue dog and they've got a teenager.
So first of all, it always depends on the teenager. You'll have the teen who wants to be involved, and so that is great. But what I often find is that they want to be involved for about 5 minutes. Then I don't know, TikTok calls and they're out of here. So is to keep that momentum going. That is probably the hardest part in a way, and to get them to realize that the dog needs them as much as they have their own needs. The teenager the child anyway has his own needs, the dog too. So I try not to give them too much to do, because I know that if you give them too much or too many responsibilities, the novelty really will wear off super quick, and they're like, I don't want to spend too much time in this. I just want the dog to be who I want him to be, without having to work on it. So obviously the parents' involvement has to be still priority. Then you have the teen that loves a dog, but comes back from school or the first work experience, and they've been so good all day. And that goes for little kids as well, actually. They've been so good all day. They've been sitting at their desk doing their work, and the older you get, the more work you get into schools as well. And it gets, it's a different literally academically is a whole different party then. So they have to behave, they have to be good, they have to sit down all day, they probably can't even chat with their mates, you know, things like this. So when school finishes and it's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they kind of want to explode. You know? They have all that wanting to just do stuff. So coming home and go, right, okay, now you need to do this for the dog. Even just say, now you need to train the dog or work with the dog or take the dog for a walk. They might not want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they might just want to go, I want to be on my computer. I want the dog there sitting by my side. But I want to be on my phone. I want to be, you know, I want to be on the phone with my mates or whatever. And we can then help the child to go, right, okay, let's do that. Do a little something. Put some fresh water for your dog and then pop in your room and play with the games with your dog there. Just one little thing that could be helpful for the dog. Even preparing a Kong, for example. Prepare the Kong, say the night before for the next day. Put it in the freezer so it lasts longer and things like this. But have it ready or prepare it there and then with something that won't mess your room too much. And then bring your dog with you wherever you are. Give him the Kong. So while he munches on the Kong, you can text your friends, you can play video games, you can do whatever you've got to do. That way helps the dog to just be calm there, because it's going to be, you know, might want to play with you, but you might not be in the mood.
Yes.
Because you've been, you know, doing other stuff that people have been telling you to do all day. Yes. So now is that time where you can be yourself, you can do what you want to do, and it might not just be what your dog wants to do. So give him something to do instead, a Kong or a puzzle, something like that. So the dog is having fun with you in the room, be together without having to do stuff together.
I love that. Little bits, tiny little steps towards. So it's not just saying, look, don't worry about it, I'll take over all of the dog's responsibility. You can outsource your relationship to mum and you don't need to worry about the dog ever. It's actually saying, do you know what, you can take a little bit of responsibility for the fact that you coexist with this amazing creature, and actually you can hang out together. If you can prepare something that the dog's really going to enjoy, and then it might only be 5 minutes and the dog goes in, eats a Kong, they hang out together, and then the dog comes out to come and see whatever you're up to in the kitchen or the living room or the office. I love that, Debbie. That's so great. It's setting them both up to succeed, isn't it? It's as simple as that. So at the Future of Dogs, Debbie, we love to look at, you know, the past, the present and the potential future of each of our amazing experts industries. And we've touched on a bit of the past and a little bit of the present. I wonder, could you finish our what if sentence, Debbie? What is the what if sentence that drives you to want to create change in your specialist field?
Well, I think you might know the answer because you know me quite well. But what if we could educate positively all children to understand dogs, to speak their language, to know what their needs are and how we can meet our needs with their needs, and just really living in harmony together.
I love it. You have to train the children, don't you? We have to train the children.
Yeah.
They're the future.
Oh my gosh, exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
And it's crazy, isn't it? Because I know when I was in school, we had, I don't know if you remember, where did you go to school, Debbie?
I went to Switzerland. Yeah, I'm
Swiss.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I don't know what the curriculum was like in Switzerland when you were in primary school, but I know in England we had so many, you know, we had the fire brigade come in and they taught us about fire safety, and then we'd have the dentist come in and they would give us like a little cool toothbrush and show us how to brush our teeth well. At one point, I think for some strange reason, we had Direct Line come in, because I remember getting given one of those little telephones.
Really?
Children of the 80s, hit me up on this one. Anybody else know? But, you know, so you get some really interesting people come in and talk about stuff in school. It just blows my mind that actually the basics of dog communication aren't national curriculum. And I guess there's lots of people out there who say, well, look, I haven't got a dog, I don't want a dog, our family are never going to have dogs. Like, what would you say, Debbie, to people who are like, I don't think that it is important to understand dog behaviour because I've got nothing to do with dogs and never intend to have anything to do with them?
Oh, I appreciate that a lot of people might even be allergic, so it's never even going to happen, things like this. I appreciate that. But don't forget that dogs are everywhere. Now more than ever. You can go to the shops like John Lewis, Wilco, they are allowed to have dogs in there. They don't have to be assistant dogs, they can just be, family dogs. So pubs with allowed dogs. I can't think of it, but many restaurants also allow dogs, cafes, or you're just going out to the park or the beach or whatever, dogs will be there. So while I understand that behind closed doors you might not have a dog, maybe ever, and even if your friends or family might have dog, you just go, oh, just don't bring me to my house. Fair enough, but it's very, very likely that you or your children, if you have children, will come in contact with a dog at one point or another in the day. So if you start noticing it, you will come across a dog during the day, even if it's not yours, even if don't know that dog or you don't know the guardian of that dog, you will see a dog at least once a day.
I think the statistics are something like I think it was 1 in 4 before lockdown. 1 in 4 households have a dog, so that's 25%. I think it's higher than that now. I think it's 1 in 3.
Yes, I think it's 33% now.
Yeah. Crazy. So actually, guys, you know what? Even if you're a bit like hesitant about hanging out with dogs, it's so important that we all learn how to read them. And I think for a lot of people that say to me, Hannah, I'm really scared of some types of dog and I'm about to get a puppy. And I get that a lot, actually. People like, I want a puppy of this breed, but I'm actually really scared of this breed, and this breed, and I don't want that to impact my dog's socialization. How can you help me? And that is, for me, the biggest answer there is just learning about dog body language, isn't it? I think being able to recognize the difference between a dog who is aroused and a dog who is more relaxed is going to make a huge difference. And what you can do to adapt your own behavior to have an interaction with that dog, or actually say, do you know what, I want a little bit of space from you, if that's okay. So amazing, Debbie. So what if dog behavior and communicating with dogs was taught in schools? So we're going to have a part 2, I think, Debbie, and I'd love to, we can deep dive a little bit more. We've recently done an event together, haven't we? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the event that we were doing earlier this week? But for you guys, I think this episode's coming out in January, so we've got another part 2 coming soon. Debbie, tell us about what we've just been up to.
Well, first of all, for this, we should thank you and Mark Abraham and Jordan Shelley, because you guys organized this great 3-part meetings where we are trying, hopefully, to find a solution to the dog bite problem. So we started last Tuesday. We had the first meeting at the House of Commons in London. A couple of MPs were present as well, and the attendees were fantastic. We had vets, lawyers, doctors, the speakers. Obviously, Hannah, you were one of them. One of the speakers you mentioned, Dr. Andrea Jester, she was also one of the speakers. Dr. John Tullock and Dr. Kerry Westgard. So they all presented the facts on sadly the injuries and fatalities that have happened due to having a dog or dogs being in, with us as such. So some fatalities were not due to owning a dog yourself, but it might have been a third-party dog. So all the facts were presented in that first meeting, and it was great. I must say, I really, utterly not enjoy, because it sounds like a bit of a weird word when you say, oh, I enjoy hearing of all the accidents. It wasn't that, but the fact that that happened, so you can't change that. But what we're trying to do is to prevent this from happening. So we presented the fact. Then I think you said maybe February should be the next meeting. So hopefully we'll soon find out what the next meeting is going to be, where we're going to discuss, is it the dog? Why is this happening? And then a third meeting in the spring, I believe, where we are going to present some solution to the government in Parliament and ask them for help to be active on those solutions. While I don't want to do any create any spoilers yet for the solutions. But to me personally, the fact that I would like to be able to educate children in schools about dogs, because I think that will be a massive help.
Yeah. And there's a huge amount, isn't there? I mean, the one thing that I know I took from that event, and we'll talk about it in our part 2 next week, if that's okay, Debbie. But the one thing that I really took from that, I think people underestimate, you know, in all of these statistics of dog bite injuries that require hospitalisation and actually also fatalities, 25% are children, consistently. And you know, one of the stats that we were looking at was that actually dog bites are going up in a particular age bracket, and again we can talk about that a little bit more next week. But for children, consistently, they're not rising, but they're not falling. And you know, what was that like for you to sort of really wrap your head around that? It's probably not a new statistic for you, Debbie, but what was that like to kind of to face that sort of fact with the work that you do, and when it was presented by, you know, love her surgeons that deal with, you know, the children's stories and the trauma stories. What did you take from that event personally in regards to your work with KAD, Debbie?
Well, the biggest thing I took from there was that definitely I'm not alone. I know it sounds a bit silly because you think, of course you're not, but when you hear it not only from dog professionals, but when you hear it from doctors and you know, all different fields in different professions, and you think, oh, it's not only affecting my, you know, my side of the business, if you like, but it's also affecting doctors, it's also affecting lawyers. We had a lawyer there, so you know, it's not, like I said before, it's not just me. And so the beautiful thing is that so many of us want to do something about this. So we're all like united to sort this out. I love that. And again, I wish we didn't have this problem at all, but we do have it. We can't, you know, bury our head in the sand. So we have it. Let's do something about it. And it's beautiful that so many want to, in a positive way. You know, they're not saying, oh, we can't have dogs. I haven't heard any of that. But what I've heard is, we have dogs, we love dogs. We have humans, so we love humans. Let's make sure that those two species can be happy together. And I that was the best thing I took from it.
It's good, isn't it? I was just so impressed by the team spirit. There was so much hope in the room, bearing in mind that the topic was dark and difficult to look at, actually. And as I say, we'll talk about that in a lot more depth in part 2. So those of you who've enjoyed this episode, do like and subscribe so that you can keep up to date. And, you know, Debbie and I are going to keep trying to work ourselves out of a job and educate people about dog behaviour and body language. And you can catch up with Debbie and find out more about her amazing work at www.kidsarounddogs.co.uk. And Debbie is all over the socials on Facebook, Insta, YouTube, TikTok and Twitter. How do you have the time, Debbie? I don't understand it. So for this part 1 of Dogs and Children, I just want to thank you on behalf of our audience, Debbie, for sitting with us, and we look forward to catching up with you again next time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Take care, guys. Keep dreaming big dreams, asking those what if questions that change the world. And that's it for part 1 of this 2-part episode. Tune in next week for the second part of this intriguing conversation, and we'll see you next time.